Hi, I'm Lizzy, and I'm older than I look. Today, I want to talk to you about something that has plagued me, occupied my mind for, as long as I have been a creature on the earth almost. Um, Today, I want to talk about body hair. Um, so, when I was growing up, I was made in the 80s, largely grew up in the 90s, and I watched my mom stress out a lot about body hair maintenance. Um, I remember watching her do her eyebrows in the mirror with the old school epilator, which I will include a link to in the notes because it's terrifying. Uh, so I watched her just absolutely go into town on her face, just ripping things out by the roots, all in the name of being acceptable. So it seemed like that was something that was pretty important to do. Um, just as I was a little kid, just trying to figure out how to be a person in the world. So I watched her just really getting into it with her eyebrows, and I saw that she kept her razor in the shower, and it was one of those old brown, I looked it up, it's a Chic Personal Touch, which I'll include a link to as well, because it's the razor of the 90s. If you're a millennial, then you definitely will recognize it. But anyway, so between the Apple Lady and the Chic Personal Touch, it seemed like body hair was just really not something that women were allowed to have, and it seemed like something I should get ready to maintain once I myself became, a woman, because back in, I hate to admit this, but like back in that time and in the place where I was living, it was a very sort of if there's grass on the field, play it kind of mentality to sexual maturity. Girls weren't seen as girls once they had body hair. They were seen as women, even if they were still only 14 or 15. And that's not good, as we are seeing more and more every day. I was not the only person to experience this. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that even before I had any body hair really to speak of, any sort of body hair that indicated sexual maturity, that is, I was still thinking about it. So there was never really a time when I was just like an unaware child in that regard. So I never questioned that I would just start getting rid of my hair as soon as it came in. It was something that my friends at school and I talked about. We would talk about like, oh, do you have leg hair yet? Oh, do you have armpit hair yet? Like, what's going on? And I was fairly early to mature in that way. I found myself with pretty visible leg hair by the time I was like about 11, I want to say. And I remember there was one day where my friends and we all got together and we had a sleepover at my friend's house, and she had stolen some of her mom's disposable razors. Her mom didn't use the Chic Personal Touch, the brown scary razor that was in my shower. Her mom used a really cute feminine razor, and it just looked a lot friendlier than what I saw in my house. And that is a theme that we will continue to explore in future episodes. So she stole a bunch of those razors out of her mom's bag of the disposables, and she had one for each of us, and she said we were all going to learn how to shave our legs together. And I was so relieved because I wanted to start getting rid of this hair that was made to seem so unacceptable and so nasty. I wanted to get rid of it, and I was afraid to ask my mom about it because I knew she was going to make it about her more than about me having an experience of my own. So I was just like, I don't really know how to get my needs met here. So thank goodness my friend solved the problem for me. We all got together in her tub and kind of all got our legs wet together and shaved our legs with our dubious, 5th, 6th grade technique. And we got the job done, god damn it. And I went back home with my cute little pink razor out of her mom's stash, and I was so excited about this new thing that I had done to, even though I was completely playing into the patriarchy, it was still a way of reclaiming my own body, because it was a choice I had made to do something, which wasn't something that got to happen that often for me in my house growing up. A lot of the stuff that happened to my body was dictated to me, not necessarily chosen by me. So to make that choice was very exciting, even though I would later make the opposite choice and be very excited about that. And I didn't really plan on telling my mother about that, but she happened to go through my backpack and find the razor, and she asked me if I had started shaving my legs. And I mean, there was really no way to lie about it, so I had to own up to it. Yes, I had shaved my legs, and I wasn't sure what I expected as a reaction, but what she responded with was mostly just feeling hurt and left out that she didn't get to teach me. So, just as I had suspected, she made it more about how is this meeting my expectations of parenting more than how am I creating a life for this new person and teaching them experiences along the way. But she took me to the store and she bought me my own grim brown chic lady razor, and this was back in the day when having 2 blades on a razor cartridge was seen as pretty revolutionary. I think we're up to 5 or 6 now, so this is an indication of how long ago this was. So there were 2 of those brown razors in the shower after that. And she had some interesting advice for me about shaving. My mother did. Something that sticks in my mind to this day still is her admonishment never to shave above the knee unless you're expecting company. And if you grew up in any sort of conservative household, I'm sure that is a familiar phrase. And as a 38-year-old woman, non-binary person today, I just think about how very strange it is to say that to an 11-year-old human being, because the implication there is don't bother shaving above the knee unless you're trying to fuck. And I didn't quite get the full implication of it when I was a child, but I remember thinking, like, what sort of company am I supposed to be planning for that requires extra shaving? Oh my goodness. So I didn't necessarily clock the full intent of the saying, but it was definitely more than I needed to hear at that age. So yeah, what a weird sex euphemism to share with a preteen. I don't know that it's a choice that I would make today, but here we are. Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of some other weird, just like phrases and like rhymes that I grew up hearing. Like, I grew up in a Catholic household, so I heard things like offer it up to the souls in purgatory, which was something I was told anytime something felt like it was worth complaining about. If I tried complaining, I was met with offer it up to the souls in purgatory, which meant basically no matter how bad you think your situation is, somebody else has it worse, which somehow negates the fact that you're having a bad time at all. So deny your reality in favor of trying to save souls of people who have died. Very strange and confusing religion. Yeah. So offered up the souls in purgatory was something I heard a lot in lieu of they're there or you'll be all right. Another saying I heard a lot was don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about. I think this one transcends Catholicism and just crosses a lot of barriers and boundaries. So again, whenever I felt like I wanted to complain about something, and then I found myself at the point of tears, I was met not with they're there or you'll be all right, but don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about. The implication there being that my mother had such a weird and awful childhood that nothing I experienced could possibly be as bad as that. Therefore, I could never be having any sort of negative experience and should never be anything other than happy. And I think that's definitely something that I still struggle with today. So, I'll give you something to cry about. Another thing that I heard a lot and maybe didn't need to. But back to shaving. My technique was just hilarious at first because I didn't learn from a grown human being. I learned from other preteens like myself. So it took me a while to figure out that I was supposed to shave like against the grain, not with the grain, because I always saw my dad shaving his beard sort of with the grain, and so I was like, oh, maybe I'm supposed to do that with my leg hair, but it was very awkward, kind of shaving sort of like down and away, and so I ended up cutting myself a lot, and I also didn't really get that nice smooth shave like I was told I was supposed to have, so it's like I must be doing something wrong. And this was long before the days when I could just like pull out a phone from my pocket and Google it quietly to myself, which is what I do now when I don't know how to do something. Back then I had to figure it out or ask a friend or look it up in an encyclopedia, which was actually a set of books on my shelf. And there not being an encyclopedia article on how to shave your legs when you're 11, I kind of just had to go with what my friends had said. So, we consulted, I figured out what I was doing wrong, I adjusted my technique, and I started bleeding less, so good job, me. Yeah, I ended up with some crazy razor burn because I didn't realize that you're supposed to change those razor cartridges as often as you are. So yeah, I would go just like months at a time, rocking the same one. It would be getting duller and duller, and I would just be like, my God, like I sometimes I'm so good and sometimes I'm so bad at this. I just can't figure it out. So again, consulted with the group, figured it out, wished for a Google that didn't exist yet, and then I figured out. Yeah, I ended up spending just so much creative energy trying to figure out a way to be as hairless as the models in commercials were, who were all airbrushed anyway. So that was an impossible standard. But I spent a lot of time and energy and money just on all of these other adventures. I thought, okay, the razor works, but it's something I have to do, every other day because my hair grows pretty quickly and I really want that smooth shave. I can't have any evidence of hair. No. And so I tried a few things. I tried stealing my mom's scary epilady because it seemed like the idea, it just seemed scientifically like ripping the hair out by the roots would just last longer than shaving it. And that was the most accessible thing I had around, was what was already in her cabinet. So I took, and it's like this tiny little thing. It's meant for your eyebrows. Again, I'll give you a link so you can see, but definitely not made for efficient clearing of a leg's worth of hair. But I would just wait until she was at work, and I got home from school before she got home from work, so I would steal her Epilady, and I would just put on a Comedy Central special and just quietly work on a patch of hair and just wish it wasn't there. So that wasn't really super efficient, and so then I turned to the aisles of CVS, and I tried Nair. And if you've never tried Nair, it is this magical witch's potion which smells awful, and it will burn the hair out of your hair follicles and also take off your skin if you are not careful. So definitely something that a child should be handling, absolutely. So I got myself a nice bottle of Nair, and I read the instructions so carefully. I was going to be so safe, and definitely wiped it off much too aggressively the first time I used it and took off a bunch of skin. So definitely can't recommend that. Don't do that. No thank you, Nair. And in a similar vein, I also experimented with those really low rent wax strips that they sell at the drugstore, the kind where you have to rub them between your hands to warm them up like it's a pat of butter at a restaurant. And so I tried those on my legs and also my pubic hair, because that was starting to come in, and I was extremely freaked out about that. And it didn't help that I was very pubically hair blessed and am to this day. So I was having a lot of feelings about that. So anyway, so I was trying the wax with all of that, and I discovered yet another way to take my skin off of my body as well as some hair. So I don't really know. The point of all that is that I'm just curious what would have happened if I had spent all of that time and energy working on something like this Substack that you will find this video on, or doing some other creative endeavor that wasn't just me trying desperately to adjust my body in a way that it really didn't need to be adjusted in the first place. Ugh. And once I became aware that I had body hair and that it was something that should go, it started to affect how I dressed, because I came to believe that if I was gonna go outside in the world and have my legs be showing, they needed to be shaved. And I think that might have come from earlier hearing about, don't shave above the knee unless you're expecting company. Okay, well, does that mean that when people see my legs, I need to be shaved? It was very confusing, and I just took it to mean be shaved or be covered. So I found myself on some hot summer days opting for pants, even though I really would have been more comfortable in shorts, because I just didn't want people to look at and comment on my leg hair, because unfortunately that was happening at the school where I went. Girls were starting to bully each other by saying hey, I think you forgot to shave your legs. I think I'm not sure if you noticed, but I think you might need to take care of that. And that was this weird mean girl bullshit that was happening, and I was very nervous about that happening to me, because I was already a new kid in that school. I had only moved to that school the prior year, and so I was really not looking to lose any social credibility. So I was basically willing to do whatever it took to just fly under the radar, and that included not catching the eyes of all of the weird leg hair police that were roaming the halls. I don't know what their deal was. Who knows? So I I didn't really get any indication that shaving was optional. It seemed really, really, really essential, like something that was to be praised, even to the point where my first ever relationship, I have only had relationships with straight guys, which is something I'm looking to change because I finally am realizing how much gayer I am than I thought I was. But, up until now, it's only been guys, and the first guy I dated, the first time we got naked together, he saw that I had just gotten rid of all of my pubic hair, and he said, "Hey, if I had known you shaved your whole vagina, I would have asked you out a lot sooner," which is a really formative message to hear when you're about 18. So, I heard a lot of reasons to get rid of the hair, and I didn't really hear a lot of messaging that the hair was just fine. And that's part of why I'm making this episode today, is because I want people who are younger than me to hear it from somebody older than them, that no matter what sort of body hair situation you're working with, it's fine, it's natural, it's coming out of your body for a reason, it's just fine, it's gonna be okay. And anyone who feels a weird need to police your body hair probably needs to find a hobby or a new skill to learn, or maybe a part-time job or a pet to take care of, or basically any other thing to occupy their time than figuring out what you should do with your hair. That's a message I really wish that somebody had shared with me. So if you need to hear that from somebody, you're hearing it from me today. You're hearing it from your pal Lizzy. So that's not all to say that I haven't had my moments of weakness, though. Most recently, I dated somebody who he seemed to really want someone who had shaved legs and like trimmed pubic hair. That seemed really important to him, and he seemed like a good enough guy in a lot of other ways that I thought, I don't think this is that big of a deal to make this small change when this person seems so great in all of these other ways. I would appreciate somebody making that small adjustment for me if they thought I was so great otherwise. So let me try to grow and change here. So that is all to say that I shaved for this guy, and that was all fine, but I just want everyone to know that you should just never, ever, ever let somebody convince you to shave your ass unless you're willing to be itchy every day. And I will say that it does sort of become its own form of meditation, just maintaining a stone face with an itchy ass in public. But be aware that that's something that will happen. And if you don't want that to happen, maybe get yourself a partner who isn't going to want that from you. That's all I have to say about that. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that do whatever you want with your hair. It's all fine. It's not doing anything wrong by being there. It's not ugly. It's not dirty, unless you don't bathe yourself. But, that's the same as the hair on your head. And I don't think anybody really has a problem with hair on your head. So I want to take a quick diversion to talk about trying to find myself in the shampoo aisle at CVS. I grew up in the 90s, as I mentioned, and I still watched broadcast TV, so I watched a lot more commercials than I do now that I just pay for streaming services. So I saw a lot of those beautiful, long flowing hair shampoo commercials. And I really, really wanted to look like that. I wanted the volume and the length and the shine and the no frizz and the no weird baby hairs. And I basically wanted to be wearing a wig like those models were wearing wigs. Didn't realize they were wearing wigs. I couldn't see how beautiful I already was. All I could see was how different I was from the commercials. And I couldn't see that while I didn't have a wig and extensions worth of hair coming out of my head, I had and still have soft, beautiful brown hair. You know, you're seeing some blonde here on the ends if you're watching this in video format, but it's you know, it's a really beautiful soft brown hair. And it's just mine. And because it's mine, I love it. It doesn't have to be anything other than it is, just the way it comes out. I used to fight against the texture of it. I used to dye it all sorts of crazy colors, and now I've just come to such a place of peace with it that everywhere the hair comes out of my body, I'm just like, oh, hello, how are you? It's nice to see you. So that is all to say that I spent a lot of time prowling the shampoo aisle of CVS, hoping that I would somehow find the shampoo and conditioner combo that would make me look like the commercials and just make me perfect and just see me for who I am and show the world who I am and protect me and just give me that impossible perfection that seemed like was the only way to stay safe back when things felt so dangerous for women, much in the same way that they do now. The way the world feels now in 2026 feels really similar to the way it did right after 9/11 happened. I'm seeing a lot of the same fashion trends. People are wanting women to be really hyper feminine and get back into the kitchen and make babies, make more soldiers for the fight. And they're wanting men to be more hyper masculine and be the soldier type. And that's something that we saw right after the towers fell. And we're seeing it now that we are in this insane new war that we're in. So, you're younger than me, or you are struggling with some tough messaging that you got around body hair, I hope that this episode helped you feel less alone, or maybe even helps you find some love and acceptance for your own hair, wherever you may find it on your side.
Find more from me at thelizzycoshow.com. That's TheLizzyCo Show.com. See you there. Bye.
Let's talk about controversy, headlines and hip hop.